Welcome to the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio, a place dedicated to animals and all those who act to protect and advocate for them. Hi, I'm your host, Erica Salvemini, and I'm thrilled and honored to be here representing All About Animals Radio using my voice for the animals. Thank you for joining us for what intends to be a thought-provoking and soul-inspiring series where we discuss topics aimed at understanding the importance of the relationship between empathy, animal rights, and our peaceful coexistence with the animal kingdom. And now on to our show. Hello, hi you guys, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Good. It's so nice to have you here. For our audience, I just want to say today we're welcoming two actual personal heroes of mine, Craig Spencer and Leitah Mkhabela. I hope I said your name correctly. Craig is the Executive Director of Transfrontier Africa, founder and manager of the Black Mambas Anti Poaching Unit, Director at Wild Animals Tracking Solutions, Warden and Ecological Advisor at the Balule Nature Reserve in South Africa. Craig has initiated marine anti-poaching in the southern coastal regions of Africa, as well as several poverty relief initiatives. In 2013, Craig founded the Black Mambas Anti-Poaching Unit. The Black Mamba Initiative currently employs 36 women from the local tribal communities. Among many other prestigious awards, Craig and the Black Mambas have been recognized as the best rhino conservation practitioner in Johannesburg in 2015 by Game Rangers Association of Southern Africa, as well as the UN EP Champions of the Earth Award in 2015. Craig is also founder of the Bush Babies Environmental Education Program, which aims to educate children from local schools, as well as their families, about the environment and animals in order to help them grow into environmentally conscious adults and citizens of South Africa. We also welcome Leitah Mkhabela, supervisor to the Black Mambas, as well as Sergeant, Ambassador, and Media Liaison for this elite all-female anti-poaching unit that is the Black Mambas. Welcome, Craig and Leitah. Thank you so much for being here today. And
Thanks, Erica.
Of course.
Can I just make one quick correction there? I stepped down as the head warden of Balule just before the pandemic.
Okay.
And I now concentrate just on the western section, which is called Olifants West Nature Reserve. So I'm the warden of the Olifants West section, no longer the warden of the bigger Balule landscape.
Very good. Thank you for that correction. I will also correct the bio on the profile for that. So
thanks, Erica.
Of course. It's my great honor and privilege to speak with you both here today about this critical time in our world, as well as for wildlife conservation, and also to discuss the remarkable work of this fearless group of dedicated women who are preserving wildlife in South Africa today and for its future. And I also want to congratulate you for this wonderful work you've been doing now for 10 years. It is your 10-year anniversary, is it not?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's amazing, good work. And there is so much to discuss, and I'm so in awe of both of you and your work. I could literally ask you questions till the sun went down, and it's only 9 a.m. here in the New York City area. So with that, we'll just jump right in. And Craig, I thought I'd start by asking you, how was it? What was the moment for you when you decided that Black Mambas was necessary? Did you wake up that morning and decide I'm going to have Weetabix for breakfast? And by the way, I think I'll form the most badass elite group of superhero women to defeat poachers and save wildlife. Is that, in my mind, that's like how it happened.
It was a similar story. We were sitting around the campfire at night, and we were having a little bit of rum, and to drown our sorrows because we had just lost our first rhinos to poaching. So the poaching started in about 2010 in this neck of the woods, and then when we were approached to ask, do you have any potential solutions? Can you assist, etc.? I said, we can try, but we're going to do it differently because the old traditional model hasn't worked up until date, in trying to shoot the problem off the landscape. We've created rifts, blah, blah, blah. There were a lot of things that we thought as ecologists and scientists and anthropologists and so on that had to change. We thought, we've got to address this in a different way. We needed a different set of tools. in our toolbox. And we sat there, and Captain Morgan is the brand of the rum, and it was very inspirational. And we came up with the idea that we needed a multi-generational impact. Because this is the thing, people in my position only get into a decision-making capacity towards the end of their career. So your impact is actually really small. And you think, I've won the day. But I've handed this problem over to the next warden who comes along, and then the next one and the next one. So there's no consistency, there's no continuity, blah, blah, blah. So we said, okay, what's our single biggest resource? It's not diamonds and gold and oil and all the other wonderful things that you find on the African continent. It's the young women. And there's a multi-generational investment that you can make here. And they're already the primary caregivers in the communities. They're already fitter than all of us put together, because they have to collect water in water cans on their heads, and they have to go and collect firewood in the bush and look after the kids and the elderly and the sick in the communities. That's the kind of spirit that you're looking for. That's the ethos that you're looking for, that caring, nurturing attitude. That's what we want. We don't want people jumping out of helicopters with Belgian Malinois strapped to their chests and night vision goggles because it's cool. We want people protecting wildlife because they care. There's a big difference there. So hence, these ladies, I've said enough.
Beautiful, beautiful. Leitah, and actually my next question was going to be for you. How did you know that this was your calling? What was that moment like for you?
So when I grew up, my granny used to work in Kruger a long time ago, and she was sharing more information about the animals behavior and how she encountered animals there. So that's where I fell in love with animals. By that time, I've never been into Kruger. I've never seen animals. So as I was in my high school, that's when I've learned that in South Africa, we are losing rhinos through poaching. So remembering what my granny told me, it brought me back to that I am that woman who wants to protect the iconic animals of South Africa. And then what I like most about this is that it took a man to realize that women are the best people for this. So when I heard about the post, I just came straight and applied, and I got a job, and we are here doing our best.
It's beautiful. You're giving me chills telling me this story, both of you. It's just, it's amazing. It's something. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories. And it would be a dream to come and ride along with you someday. So I'm going to squirrel that in the back of my head. And
Erica, we joke about it. You just mentioned coming along with the Mambas on a patrol. We've got these commercial lodges that operate in the area, and people pay so much money to come and stay in a commercial lodge and go on a game drive to see the Big Five. They get to see it every time they go out on a patrol.
It's amazing. If I wasn't, I'm a single mom. I have 2 boys. They're the lights of my life. They're everything to me. But if that was not my life and it was something totally different, I would be locking the door, packing my stuff up, and I'd be out, and I'd be begging to have you let me join.
It's a great,
yeah.
And that, we touch on this, and I know I'm going to ad lib quite a bit, so just stop me dead in my tracks if I am shooting my mouth off. But something that we are striving to get back, something when I entered this industry 27 years ago, the attraction was that you're surrounded by peers, and there's this kind of pseudo kinship model where everybody in conservation, we enjoy the sunsets, we love the sound of the elephants trumpeting and the hyenas calling at night, and make a little fire, and and you just love every change of season, and that's the impala rutting, and I can't wait to see how the lambing is doing. And so those were the people that you wanted to surround yourself with in the bush. And then when the rhino poaching came back again, because this is a cyclical thing, it's not new. Anybody that's been as long as I have in the conservation arena here in Africa has been through this several times. And we have now modified, unwittingly, I think, recruitment policies, budgets, everything, to put more and more money into fortification models of guns and bombs and helicopter fuel and police dogs and so on and so on and so on. And those people have all reached retirement level and left. So now we are attracting soldiers, ex-soldiers, people trying to duplicate a lifestyle of soldiering or law enforcement and so on. So that we've lost a certain kind of an ethos. And I'm not bashing the one side. I'm just saying that it's really sad for me that we've lost the other side. Who do I sit and enjoy my coffee with in the mornings now? The soldiers with war paint on, twitching to get out there and go and shoot something.
Yeah.
It's a negative kind of energy that has been replaced on the landscape. And nature.
Aggression.
Yeah. nature reserve, a game park, whatever. It's supposed to be a happy place. It's supposed to be a place where you can let your soul dream about ancient wisdoms and, and you see an elephant that's clearly going to outlive me on this landscape and carrying its baby for 22 months. I mean, the wisdom in that animal, and we just drive past now without even waving and taking our hat off and bowing in its general direction. It's nonsense.
For granted. Yeah. It's, it should never be lost on any of us. Nature, wildlife, Mother Earth heals us, and we should be healed back. And that is as noble,
exactly. And as noble as it might be to rush around and just purely do anti-poaching, where we've kind of lost the ethos. We've lost the whole reason why we have national parks and things in the first place, and what intrinsic values they have and spiritual values and so on. We lost it.
Right.
So I want that back. So that's a kind of hidden story that I've never really told anybody, because that's for around the campfire. But when you gave me your introduction earlier, I thought you would understand more than anybody else. And these guys bring it back.
Yeah. It's like the mother nurturing instincts of women that you all can tap into the, Mother Earth. I mean, that's basically what you're doing. You're working on her behalf. You're in the service of Earth kingdoms, the animal kingdom more specifically. But it's amazing, and it should be that way. We should be leading with our hearts to protect and preserve humanity. Where's the humanity in the work that we're doing? And if we lose that, if we lose our humanity and we're just putting on war paint and holding guns, then we've lost something. And we have lost something, haven't we? But we're getting it back. There is the light is coming back, and there are more people who do want more of what you're doing, the conservation, the saving of animals. And, we don't want to just have them in picture books for our children to see, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren to see one day. I can't imagine that. That's just a concept I can't even imagine. Such a terrible thing.
Erica, you've hit the nail on the head. If we lose the spiritual connection, because it's now a war zone, and I think it's so subtle that we don't actually notice that it's happening. When a tourist comes in through this gate, you've flown your family halfway around the world, you've burned a lot of carbon, whatever it might be, you're really feeling slightly guilty for that, and then you arrive at this national park, and the first person you meet is a militarized soldier with a sniffer dog that treats you like a criminal. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. You don't notice it at the time, but I can promise you that this kind of negativity from the minute you climb out of your car for the first time is all around you. There's rules in place, and now we've militarized, and I think it's really super sad that we've taken that spiritual value away, because it's throwing water on the fire of your spirit the minute you arrive.
It malfunctions the whole purpose of our existence, and
like a blocker kind of thing, and we've got to realize that what you said earlier is so very true. Conservation is something from the heart. It's philosophical. It is, you've got to be able to plumb the depths of your soul to grasp the significance of the work that we do. Science is a tool that we use. It's a tool in our toolbox, just like soldiering and guns and police. Those are also tools. But the real conservation comes from the heart. It comes from the soul. It's just like a musician. You can go to I have lots of friends who go and study music and art, and then they get a certificate at the university, but they still can't draw and they still can't plonk on a piano.
Right.
So it doesn't make you a musician. That comes from the heart.
It does.
And
it's all the stuff that connects us to source, and that doesn't make it religious to say that. It's just what is.
Spirituality. Yeah, we can separate the two, religion and spirituality. And I needed that, and I needed a very short lag period to get it back. And these guys brought it back like this.
It's right. And you knew it. So you obviously, it was your calling, Craig, as well as for Leitah and all the other wonderful women. You couldn't do one without the other. So it's like, yin and yang, you all fit together, and it's the perfect, all the pieces have come together. And I would love it and it's one of my questions later on, but if replicating what you've done here for the Black Mambas is something that I think should be really looked at. I do this animal advocacy work because I love it. It's my passion. I am a volunteer doing this podcast because I just feel like I needed to do something And so I talked to different people around the world, and in Australia, for instance, the kangaroos, they're, this iconic animal that everybody knows as part of Australia, kangaroos and koala bears. They're killing, they're annihilating the kangaroos right now, and the government has given the okay and the approval for it, and it's for the kangaroo product industry, but they're going to be annihilated, they're going to be gone, and something needs to be done about this. And again, this is where I think of you guys and think of the Black Mambas, you should be on continents everywhere, and it's just, to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but I just think...
you're not crazy, Erica. We need to change our attitude towards our consumptive activities. And I'll tell you something you touched on. Domestication of animals was probably one of our biggest failures in life, in our evolution. And we went through about 125,000 years of domesticating wolves and cattle and so on, for our convenience. I think it actually had mutual benefit for the wolves because they could eat our scraps.
Sure, they knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. And but the irony is that when you look again in the Western Hemisphere, in the Northern Hemisphere, we now carry little pink poodles around in our handbags. So we've gone from the animal as a tool in our toolbox to this over-pampered chocolate cake eating purple washed poodle in a handbag. And yet there's thousands and thousands of homeless animals running around that are mistreated, chained under a tree in the blazing sun, not given water and food and everything. And we've had to put institutions in place, special prevention of cruelty to animals, special legislations, courts that deal with it, lawyers that specialize in it, volunteers, NGOs, etc., to try and rectify this thing that was, that we started.
And they're mass euthanizing all of the unwanted animals.
It drives us crazy. And Leitah and I, we speak about it a lot.
And I'm in the pet industry, and I understand it is a love-hate relationship, because I own a pet spa and I take care of many of these pampered babies. But actually, what it turned out to be was I take care of all the special needs pets. And why are there so many special needs pets? And I just happen to call them that. It's not like that's a coined term, but they're all malfunctioning because of all the things that have been done. There are all these, designer bred animals that cost thousands of dollars. Yes. And because, behind the scenes, if you pull the curtain back, there's a breeding industry that is quite dark. Are there some reputable ones out there? Sure. But in the end, we're still not honoring respecting the animal's choice. And that's really where it needs to start, isn't it? It needs to start with the communities, with the people, training them, helping them understand. It is about education. And, it's not, there is no judgment. It's just, this is just what's become of humanity. This is what we have become, but that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. There is a point where we all have to say, okay, just a moment of self-awareness, start it at some point and then continue it on. And if we all have self-awareness every single day to ask the questions, why are we still doing it this way? Should we do it this way? Would this be, where's my moral compass? Let me find and tap into my moral compass. That's correct. Ask that of everything that we do in our lives. Should we be doing this? Why are we doing this?
And this is the last thing I'll say on the domestication issue, but I want to close with this. How can I ask the people in the local communities that can barely put food on the table to respect the fact that the big fat wildlife is running around here and they shouldn't touch it? These animals here, they're fine. They're very happy. There's 3 million hectares for them to run around on. It's the size of several small European countries, in Southern Park. They're fine. It's the animals on the other side that are fine. And if I can bridge that disconnect where the donkey just pulls my cart, the dog chases jackals away from my chickens, so if I can bridge that and say, actually, these animals still feel stresses, they still need attention and love and cuddling and all that kind of thing, then it will be much easier for me to say, it's really unfair to bludgeon an animal to cut its face off for its horn because it's not nice. Right. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but let's get it done at home with the domestic animals. Right. Then it'll be much easier for me to save the wildlife. And these ladies will have an easier time in their community of convincing their peers as well.
Yeah. There's a disconnect with empathy, for everything in life. Yeah. I also do energy work. And so I am tapped into, people suffering And, that transcends down. And if everyone just, at some point wanted to heal themselves, we all have a responsibility to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
Look at what we are and who we are and what we've become. And yes, we can all say everybody's got trauma, right? From one degree or another in their life. And what that turns into and what that looks like for each of us individually matters. But we may not be responsible for what happened to us, but we are responsible for becoming better versions of ourselves, the highest and greatest versions of ourselves. And then if everybody did that, like, I won't name names, but there are nation leaders that if they became good, pure souls and healed their inner wounded child, imagine if we all did that, we would all start being kind to one another. And then we would be able to have empathy for animals, whether it's the donkey or monkeys in cages in these meat markets in wherever, Cambodia, all around the world. We could just have empathy and feel and understand that animals are sentient beings and they do have the ability to love and have compassion.
These things will feel the same stresses, the same social pressures, the same anxieties, etc. They might process it differently, but I promise you, they don't deserve to put under the pressure that we do. And that goes for our food as well, let me tell you. If we want to eat these things, then we must treat them with respect.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Otherwise, we're a bunch of hypocrites sitting here in the African bush trying to protect wildlife, and yet we go out there and do these other terrible things. But anyway,
it is all linked, like you said. It's all linked.
It is.
So, all right, let's ask some fun questions. The listeners may want to know, how are the ladies trained? And either one of you can jump in and explain. Like, is it like military boot camp? I was going to ask, do you wear fatigues? But I do see that you wear fatigues, and I know that you're unarmed. So, like, how does that work?
So I will first explain why we are unarmed. It's because we cherish life and we don't want to use bullets to win this war. We want to use education and knowledge. Like, as you were saying, that we have to teach people from the village about loving the domestic animals before the wild animals. So that's what we're doing. We send message back home and we teach them. Whenever I go on my leave, I'm still not on my leave. I look at what's happening in the community. If I see someone's dog is sick, I tell them what to do, where they should go to help that animal. And we have went through a hard training. If Craig said we're going for that training, I'm not going now. So, but the training was worth it. For the whole 10 years, none of the Black Mambas has been killed by poachers. And we have came across rhino poachers, and we always come across bushmeat poachers. All of these people, they come inside the reserve with weapons or anything that can kill or harm a person, but none of us has been in an accident like that, in an incident like that. So the training was very much worth it. We went for 3 months training. We stayed 12 days in the bush with less water. You wake up early in the morning around 4, you have to cook and finish. And when someone comes there, they mustn't tell that you were there, you were cooking. And then you go out and start working, learning about animals, tracking the bush itself, the poachers, how to protect the iconic animals. And then until late at night, you come back and you have to wait. Like, we're sleeping in a boma. We did a boma with a knob thorns. We're protecting ourselves from the big cats so they don't come inside. And it was something from me as a lady who's just coming from the village. I know nothing about the bush, and now I have to create a house with a knob thorns and make sure that the cats don't come and eat me. And we are used to waking up from the chicken sound. Yeah. And now you wake up from a lion roaring. So that was something different, but it was a good experience that we have gained. And from being a village girl to a professional Black Mamba, we have changed a lot. Our mentality have changed. Our understanding has changed. So it was like a soldier training. You have to run 5 kilometers every day. You have to do push-ups. You have to learn about teamwork, leadership, and disciplines were involved. If you do something wrong or your colleague do something wrong, you're all involved in, we were learning how to be a team in a big five area, because we have to protect off. You have to go out with somebody whom you can believe that if they see a lion, they will stop me, and we have to think, what should we do? So for the whole 10 years, none of us has been harmed by animals or by poachers, because we are still in that level of the training that we got, and we continue getting skills, different skills now, and then skills about media, what happened when we encounter elephants, lions. So it was a lot, and it was worth it. I remember when I go home, the first time I came here, when I tell my mom that I've sent out my CV and I got a job, I have to go and train. The job is to be a Black Mamba. I'm gonna be a ranger working in the game reserve. And she was like, are you gonna be with a man who will be holding a weapon? Because that's the mentality that we grow up into, that only a man can be a ranger, not a woman. So they believe that you need a man by your side who's holding a weapon to protect you. And the first day on my training, we were passing wood spray taxi rank with our kit bags, and we were drilling, we were shouting left, right, with our sergeant behind us. Yeah. And we had, there were few guys, the taxi drivers, they were like, what are those girls doing? We have seen men run away from the training of Project. They're not going to do it. And one thing that will happen to them, they won't be able to give birth. It's going to destroy their body. So, you know, it's thinking in our mind, like, is it true? Because we didn't know what's going to happen to us in the bush, the training that we're going to face. We just been told about it, but you haven't done the practical. So we went there with that mind of like, and now I'm scared. I think my mom was right. I'm not the right person for this. And then we went through the training. On the last day, we all told our sergeant, can we go back and start again? Because it was like, wow, the training was amazing. It changed us in a lot of a different way, the impact that we had. And when we go home, we're very skinny. So my mom just saw me and like, what happened? What did they do to you? So I started explaining to her what was happening, and she was like trying to believe me, and then I came back to start working. And when they start seeing that, oh, this thing is working, the ladies are now in uniform, everyone is talking about them, and we got recognized from the United States for the Champion of the Earth. We started being the role models in our community. Everybody wants to know about the Black Mambas, how we are doing it, because for so many years, it has been men with weapons. And now what are women doing in the bush without weapons? And they seem to be doing very well. And the shocking thing was that we are patrolling the boundaries of Balule, where there's a busy main road. So many people are seeing us and they are hooting. Some of them stops. What are you doing? We just saw lions from that side. Are you guys going to make it? And you know, now people are admiring us. And the truck drivers, when they drive and see lions, they will stop. And ladies, watch out, there are lions. That's like everybody is warning us. When there are lions outside the reserve, people stop us and tell us. When there are elephants outside of the reserve, and then we're going to have what is this? A human and wildlife conflict. People will stop you and tell you, Black Mambas, we have seen an elephant, we need your help. So many people have seen what the Black Mambas are doing, and the training that we went through, we thought it was bad training, but it was a good training ever that I went through. For 10 years, we're all still fine without weapon. And we're doing very well. And we think it's best. If you can ask me if I want to use a weapon, no. I want to continue doing it the same way that we are doing it now, because we are able, and we change direction or we wait for them to move, and then we continue with our patrol.
That was well put. Thank you, Leitah. You know, the significant thing, Erica, is that we chose the military training style, the paramilitary training, because first it's an industry norm. We'll get into the anti-poaching arena. There's a prescribed curricula, if you like, before you can be registered as a security guard and blah, blah, blah. So we had to do that anyway. And obviously we spiced it up a bit, but the thing is that it builds a kinship. And so now the sisterhood of the Black Mambas, you know, if they all had to go through this, and the training is very brutal, it's very hard, especially the fitness stuff. It's 40 plus degrees Celsius outside, and these ladies, you get very little sleep. And it's basically the equivalent of basic training in the army. But they're not what we realized is that all of our training facilities in the entire country are designed to train men. So the facilities were not suited for women. That includes open air bathrooms, communal showers. And if you have a mixed group in, it's really not economical to take a group of 5 people at a time and train them, because then you must book out the entire training facility for 5 people. You would normally have 20 or 30 people on that course. So now you've got 5 young women from a local tribal community intermingling with a whole bunch of other hairy men,
Yeah.
you know, and have to share these. I mean, it's never going to work. I mean, what the hell? You know? So, you know, we had to rearrange just about everything. We've had 4 intakes now, and every time that we do another intake, we've improved and we've streamlined and we've built better facilities and better and better and better. The survival training that Leitah was talking about now is in the bush for a week, you know, and you've got to share a little, you make a little tent thingy, a little bivouac out of sticks and thorn branches to protect you from the lions, as you said, and the leopards and so on. You can't ask a young woman, their fathers and their brothers and their boyfriends would never accept that they would sleep in a tent and share a sleeping bag and that with another man or another guy from it. Forget it. You know, so we have to be very aware of integrating women into this arena. Means change has to start at the bottom with everything from the facilities to the curriculum. And we also have to be aware that they have a very important function to play in the household. So for me to take them away for 3 months, who's collecting the firewood, looking after the grandmothers, looking after all the sisters' kids so the older sister can get a job and so on. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to take into account. Anyway.
That's intense. That's amazing that goes on. And I had a feeling that was the kind of training that you all were doing. It just kind of makes sense that it would have to be that intense in order, since you're putting your lives on the line basically for the animal. And you're coming up against some pretty dark people who are willing to do anything to get that horn and or whatever animal it is that they're trying to kill. So I have a question for you, and I don't remember where it came across to me that I heard that the Black Mambas, they're female because they're incorruptible. That I don't know if that's part of the reason, or it just happens to be one of the things as a side effect, because the women are, you know, the nurturers and they're dedicated, and one might even say it's your uncompromising convictions that allows them to take on the poachers and win.
You know, we've got a saying here that no poacher can be successful unless somebody is helping him on the inside. Okay, right. And I stick with that. After 27 years of doing anti-poaching work in Africa, I can guarantee you that a poacher will not succeed unless there's somebody inside helping them with information, opening and closing a gate, off-duty tracker coming on, whatever it might be. And it's bloody stressful. So we have a process that we go through. We call it honesty verification, and that includes polygraph testing and screening cell phones and so on and so on. And in, how long has it been now? 10 years. Eh? This actually marks our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and none of the Mambas have ever failed that process. So, but yet I've had such a high turnover of the men. You must remember, perhaps I should have qualified in the beginning, when we started with the Black Mambas, I already had 40 armed rangers, paramilitarized armed rangers protecting the wildlife here, and they were all men. Okay, but through the polygraph process, you have such a high turnover. You're training all the time new people to take the place. You're catching them out red-handed. They're breaking the rules, and it's not just whether they're helping poachers along. It's silly things like when the lions kill a giraffe, that's going to feed that lion pride now for a week or more. But when we look again, the guys have gone, they chased the lions away and have harvested all the meat off the giraffe carcass. You know? So you can't be a conservationist protecting that and then at the same time irritating. Don't you remember the one guy climbed up the tree and stole the leopards? The leopard killed a small antelope, it's called an impala, and he pulled it up into the tree, and the ranger, the anti-poaching ranger, saw this and thought, hang on a minute, I'll take that, thank you very much, you know, and chased the leopard away. So all of this kind of interference. And then we found that the men were also chasing the rhinos to chase them out of the area that they were patrolling in because they didn't want this. They wanted to go to sleep at night. They didn't want the stress of having to look after them and getting shouted at on the radio for sleeping and so on. So I was like, no, hang on, we're supposed to be conservation. Where's this conservation ethic? Where's this ethos? It's gone. That doesn't happen with the women. It never has, because there's no ego here.
Right.
Okay. And there's no shortcuts. And I think there's also a huge responsibility on you in the household to provide as a breadwinner. And, you must know that if you pay one salary in South Africa, 8 other people in that village benefit directly from that. So that's the national statistics here. So I think that pressure, that's a social pressure that the women feel when they go back home. They're providers and they're caregivers.
Yeah. So as you mentioned that we are the mothers of the earth, it's quite easier for us to know where the rhinos is and don't tell anyone about it. Because the same way I would protect my child, that's the same way we protect the rhinos.
Right.
And we are inside the reserve. Like I spent 21 days inside working and then 10 days off. So I want to protect, or I'm protecting the iconic animals for the next generation. I don't want my kids to grow up seeing the rhino in the picture. I've taken so many pictures. I don't want them to only see it on those pictures or magazine newspapers. I want them to see the real rhinos. And we don't go to bottle stores and drink and share information, because when you're drinking, you get drunk. You don't know what you're talking. When you're talking, you might be telling the wrong, the right information to the wrong person.
I think it's quite significant, because there's a level of responsibility that the women carry that I think the men sometimes lack. They also might have got away with so many indiscretions and things in the community, just being men. It's very patriarchal at the end of the day. And sometimes information slips out. You go to the bar, you drink, like Leitah was saying, and you're like, oh, you work in the game reserve? Yeah. You say, oh, cool. The rhinos, of course, and don't worry about it. So information might not be given out with ill intentions. It's just that it's irresponsible and the men don't see it as such a lot of the time. What else could you say on this?
I think in our villages, when you're a man and you're not able to provide very well for your family, you lose your dignity a bit. Even when there's a gathering where people are talking about the village, what they can improve in the village. Sometimes when you want to say something, people don't see you, don't take you serious because you don't have cows, you don't have a big house. And so that kind of a man, if someone can approach them and say, I want you to go inside the game reserve and kill a rhino, or you working as a ranger, I think I can boost your salary with 50K this month. If you can tell me where the rhinos are, I will do everything myself. You won't be involved. They sometimes easily to agree with that because they have never had a chance to hold 50K or 100K, and they feel like, I'll be able to buy cars and build a big house for my family. So those kind of things makes them agree to something that they know that they should be doing.
I think it's very, very significant. What Leitah's just touched on now, Erica, is the massive socio-economic pressure on the majority of the people in South Africa, but probably in most of the sub-Saharan African countries, is and we forget very quickly that there is a hierarchy in these communities, and there's this human dignity that's lost when you don't have access to resources and whatever. So it becomes very attractive, and then we're also reeling from how many 60 years of apartheid, and we're expecting in one single generation for this to be fixed, and here's a bunch of white people sitting on this side wearing camouflage army uniforms, placing the life of an animal above the life of the people in the village next door. The memory hasn't even started to get old yet.
Yeah.
What was going on here for so many decades. So, we can't be now sending a message back to the community. I think it's so rude to expect to defend this landscape and its wildlife for our gratification, so that we can go on holidays and sit at campfires and go to fancy lodges and do safaris and so on and so on. In order to do that, we're going to go to the community and ask the young men to come and be trained up to protect it against their uncles and so on and so on. Then we're going to pay them some ridiculous salary and then expect them to love it or appreciate it or whatever the word is, to develop the ethos. No. We've got so many injustices to rectify before we can sit back and relax.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and we can't just sit back and rest on our laurels. And it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication.
There's trauma. There's historical trauma. There's childhood trauma, and these are the fathers bringing up children now.
Yes.
From that apartheid time, there was a huge loss of human dignity and so on and so on. And we're dealing with that. There's no safety nets in this country. If I place a gun in Leitah and her team's hands and they have to use it in the line of duty to defend an animal from poachers, somebody gets shot or whatever it might be, we don't get a box of chocolates and a stuffed toy the next day. You're back on duty or you go to jail. There's no counseling and, oh, boo-hoo, look at this poor person who had to
swallow it and keep on moving, don't you?
Traumatized through the work. It's got to be the other way around.
Yeah.
You take your kids into bed with a beautiful story about the elephants at the waterhole and the babies that were suckling from the mother and so on and so on. Not, oh, your mother's G.I. Jane, with a shaven head and war paint on her face, and it's so cool because I carry a gun. That's, I don't want that on my conscience.
No. The other way is much nicer. Tucking them in and telling the lovely stories about the animals is a nicer way to be. I have a question about, because I do animal advocacy work and I'm on a lot of these social media platforms and talking about this type of work, and I'm baited constantly by what they call trollers. These people, and it's always men. It is always men who come on and they want to fight me, and they do it to the other animal advocates too. And they're the so-called conservationists or scientists or economists who are claiming that trophy hunting is the better way, that it's actually good for the land, it's good for the people, it's good for the economy, the ecology, and it's controversial, very much so. And so I wanted to ask what your thoughts on that are. How do we combat that when we're constantly being
Erica, it's such a critical discussion. And in all of my years, I did that. That was part of our economic policy. It was one of our financial tools in our toolbox. And it was big five animals as well, elephants and buffaloes and so on and so on. And it took us quite a long time to realize that this is all smoke and mirrors economically. If in 27 years, I would not have started an NGO called Transfrontier Africa to build schools and plant vegetable gardens and put shoes on children's feet and look after the animals and the donkeys that take the kids to school and put boreholes in so that people have got access to water, because these are all the things that the trophy hunters have been claiming to be funding.
Right.
I've been a freaking warden and a conservation practitioner. That's all I ever hear from them. And yet I had to start an NGO and do it myself. And I refuse to prostitute the animals on the landscape that I am ordained to look after for the sake of that. It's a kind of perverse way of justifying an archaic practice. To say that I have to kill animals to build schools. What absolute balderdash is this? Firstly, you're bailing your government out of its primary responsibility. Right. Okay, when Leitah gets paid her salary, she gets taxed by the government, and the government is proud to read out its annual budget of how much money it's going to pump into schools and hospitals and social well-being and all that kind of thing. And then the trophy hunters come in and say, well, we'll bail the government out. We'll just plug a few elephants and a lion and a blah, blah. And all this sort of thing. And yet nothing ever changed. Where's that money going? We're still driving around 30-year-old Land Rovers and, bouncing with no air conditioning and whatever. Where's all that money gone? So there was another angle. If I'm going to lose animals to poachers, and I want to try and get the community on my side to not harbor poachers and to see poaching as a criminal activity, then I can't be allowing some big Texan guy or some guy from Germany or what have you to come and shoot the animals here for money. And then at the same time, tell that community, you can't come in here and touch a thing because I'm going to put you in a body bag if you do. Right. You know, so what message are we sending out? This is a white man's playground. We come here, we can do whatever we like. And if the black man comes anywhere near this place, we shoot you. And in fact, I'm not going to do the shooting because I'm too busy celebrating killing an elephant. I'm going to get your children to shoot you.
Yeah.
You know, and pay them a minimum wage. It is the most perverse way of justifying conservation that I've ever met. I can say this as a qualified, with all my academic background and what have you, somebody who has practiced this for 27 years. So I can proudly say that on the landscape where the Black Mambas work, we have not tolerated trophy hunting for it's now 10 years. Yeah?
Wonderful.
And we are. We've gone over to the non-consumptive industries. Spoke about commercial lodges in the past. They're not angels out there right now. The lodges have a big footprint. They have a lot of service providers coming in and out, air conditioning repairmen, whatever it might be. There's a lot of wastage. There's a huge energy consumption. There's a lot of garbage that is generated, refuse that we have to deal with. There's vehicles driving around, harassing the animals, so on and so on and so on. But for every vehicle that goes out, there's 10 people on that car that are going back with this wonderful spiritual experience of seeing a lion roar and watching a baby elephant suckle from its mother and so on and so on. It's not just one elite guy that can come in here and kill for fun and get out, because it's very expensive to shoot an animal. Very, very expensive. I'm not talking about your airplane tickets and your fancy lodges and all that sort of thing. That's very expensive too. But to buy the rights to kill that animal is very expensive. Now, if you've got that kind of disposable income,
that's right.
Go freaking skiing in the Alps.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. It's disgusting. I agree.
You cannot convince me. Erica, you cannot convince me because I've had to do it. And it's the hardest part of any conservationist's life. The irony of it all, I will stop ranting after this last statement because I am on a rant about this and
it's all right.
Unlocked something that's very dear to me. The irony of it all, just like communism and socialism, it looks fantastic on paper.
Right.
And if it wasn't for the human construct, it might actually be justifiable.
Right.
But when you are in a third world environment with borders that are so porous and such loose morals and a moral compass that spins like Captain Jack Sparrow's pocket watch, you know, then how can you possibly expect a practice like that to deliver the goods that is written in some Marxist manifest? You know, because that's what it boils down to. It boils down to a regime that looks good on paper, that cannot possibly be implemented and self-regulated inside the countries. Why do we not tolerate this kind of thing in the Northern Hemisphere? Because it won't fly. But let's go down to Africa.
What's interesting, well, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's interesting you say that because, you know, just recently I learned that they are now creating these canned hunting
yes.
ranches, farms. Yeah. And they're, I know that about 16 or so that I know of at this point exist in Texas. Let me not say anything. I have to bite my tongue a little bit. But they're in Texas. I'm sure they're in other places too, but I'm sure that a lot of people, folks, if you're listening to this and you happen to be in the United States, this stuff is existing now. And they're, you know, big game animals that shouldn't be there. There's, you know, zebras running around and antelope and all these animals that don't exist in nature in Texas, in the United States. They don't belong there. And these big, you know, fat cat dudes with all this money, like you said, the disposable money, they don't know what to do with it, you know, and invest, become a philanthropist, give money. There's so many poor people in the world. There's so many things, good things that you can do with your money. This is how you're choosing to do it. And then have the audacity to say that this is good for the, for ecology and for conservation and for where and how and in what world can that possibly be true? And how is it legal? How is this legal? And it's happening.
Well, it's all smoke and mirrors. It's true. It's smoke and mirrors to try and perpetuate that part of a rich person's lifestyle, you know. So they hide behind the banner of conservation all the time. They wave that conservation flag willy-nilly all over the show. Just like the Japanese were very happy to wave the research flag when they wanted to continue to kill whales. Okay. So there's no difference to me There's no difference to somebody going to a homeless person and harvesting his kidneys to save some rich dude, because, you know, that's wrong as well. And we've got rules and things in place to protect the homeless from that sort of thing,
Right.
you know, and I just think it's ridiculous that you would take animals from Africa, move them across to the United States, so you could breed them, so you could perpetuate this practice. It's part of our evolution. We put somebody on the moon. We communicate around the world on a thing this big. We can access as much information as we like at the click of a finger. This, you know, hiding behind this thin veneer of conservation all the time to justify these practices. And yet we have evolved so far that we've put somebody on the moon. We are exploring galaxies with probes and so on and so on. I can access, you know, and that's all thanks to this little appendage on the end of my hand. And I can use this to phone my mother and tell her how much I love her. You know, I can use this to take a needle and stitch up somebody who might be bleeding to death or whatever. There's so many good things. I can compose the most beautiful music with this finger and so on and so on. And yet I will choose to use the same thing to pull a trigger and kill a big animal. It makes absolutely no sense in the evolution of the human mind and the way that our value systems have changed over time, that surely has got to be such a small sector of our society that we are trying to please and appease, that we are prepared to change legislation and hold international conferences to appease this minuscule little sector of our society. I say, hang on a minute, when did democracy become about the smallest part of our society? Because if you put this to a popular vote, I promise you now they're going to lose.
I agree.
And yet here we have debates and debates. I have to fly around the bloody world to have the same rant that I'm having to you now. And, you know, the statistics nobody's listening to statistics. Science has never changed the management opinion in my time. You know, I'm a great advocate of science and I employ a massive scientific team here. I was one myself. But the bottom line is that it's the lobbying that is going to win. So those guys lobby harder because they've got the bigger bucks and they align themselves with the National Rifle Association, Safari Club International, et cetera, et cetera. So it's politicized, okay? It's globally politicized. They go to the African states and they're convinced, they say, listen, nobody's listening to us anymore. All right, so let me get a puppet figure from an African state and bring them across to say what I need to say. Now it's coming from an African person from Africa. Now you have to listen. You know, but the only people that are benefiting from trophy hunting are the outfitters and the trophy hunters in that money moves in that circle.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant. I've been banned from just about every meeting for having these rants.
Oh, well, I can appreciate that. And I applaud you for getting banned from those meetings for doing so. So, yeah.
They can't ban me twice, so I can say it again.
How do we combat this with, you know, the people up at the, you know, high government levels who are okaying all of this? And I know it seems kind of an absurd question, like, right? How do we even contemplate such a thing? But I don't know, because it is happening at the higher up levels, isn't it? It's not just money, because the people in the power, they all work together, don't they?
That's right. That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. Money begets money, and, you know, it's very influential. Money is more influential than numbers, people numbers. And democracy is supposed to work on people numbers, really, you know, but it doesn't. It works on the size of your wallet. But, you know, I go back to, and I'm going to do a bit of backpedaling now. If this was a utopian world, then there might be beautiful wilderness areas out there that you can say, I'm going to helicopter some guy in to shoot some crusty old thing, put it out of its misery and make enough money to protect that wilderness for the rest of our lives. But, you know, because we're humans, that crusty old thing then becomes a young teenage thing because they can't find the crusty old thing and the hunter's only got one more day left. And, you know, so the rules and the boundaries just start expanding all over the show. And that outfitter doesn't want to lose his income and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, no, it's not going to work. It cannot work because we are human beings. And we've proven that time and time again.
Yeah.
Why would we prop up a failed model? We know it's failed. I mean, trophy hunting has been going on in our landscape for decades, long before I was born, and yet the communities that they've been propping up are still living in abject poverty.
Right.
You know,
hasn't done anything for them, has it?
No.
And there's
Anyway.
so much ego involved in it as well. You know, these people who do this, it's just that's what it's feeding, is their ego. And
yeah. The thing that really upsets me is that they want me to protect the wildlife here from poachers' guns. And to fund that, I must prostitute some of the animals out to save the rest. It's like burning your furniture to warm your house.
Yeah.
So we had to find a different model. And then I must just put more and more money into building bigger fences, getting more helicopter fuel and so on, because my local communities next door are going to look at this lot and say, what a screwed up situation. Apartheid ended years ago, but we still are being told, put a foot on this side of the fence, I'll blow you away. But that guy can come in because he's got enough money. Why don't you give me the hunting permits? If there are permits available for animals to be shot legally, why can't I have them as the chief of this village and then decide if I want to sell them or burn them? You know, why can't I make that choice? But we're saying, no. You guys, you stay one side. I'll make all the decisions of who dies and who lives on this landscape.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, we've digressed horrendously off topic.
Well, let's take it to a more positive aspect. And so if there's people listening to our show today, either on podcast or YouTube, and they want to just, you know, regular people just have a few dollars and they want to donate to your worthy cause, is there a way that they can do that?
There is indeed. They can go onto our, what is it called? Our website.
We'll have all your links.
Remember what
That's
it is.
Okay.
It's on our Facebook account and Instagram.
Or on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks, Leitah.
Instagram, great. They can do it through there. That's wonderful. We're going to have all of your links attached to our profile, every single one that is, you know, beneficial for folks to go to and learn more about the Black Mambas and or donate. We'll have all that listed and posted. So
thanks, Erica. You know, I should mention that we got you know, we've been around now for 10 years, and 9 of those 10 years was subsidized by the government of South Africa through the National Parks Board and the Department of Environmental Affairs. So we got quite a nice subsidy, and it was more than 30% of our entire budget, because they believe so strongly. It was only because of COVID-19 and various other things that the subsidy stopped. So now we live 100% off the goodwill of the generous people out there, the donations and so on. Okay. So, but I do want to just, you know, I don't want to forget to mention that the government really stood by us for a long time, because they do believe in the women empowerment model. And I like to think that we've influenced policy at the highest possible levels. You know, all the neighboring parks and the national parks and that are going in a similar direction. The women are finally getting a place in the conservation arena. So the value systems are going to shift. They want to change.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing work. And bravo to you all for making that happen. And obviously it's proven that women can and should have a place in conservation. Yes. And you're making incredible strides in making that happen. So wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your good work. And, you know, Craig and Leitah, it's not often in our lives that we're fortunate enough to come face to face with your heroes. And you really are that to me. I am, you know, I'm honored to be able to sit here and chat with you about all of these things. And it's not lost on me that this is a great gift. So I want to thank you both so very much for taking time out of your busy schedules and everything that you're doing, all of your good work, to be here with us today. Much
absolute pleasure, Erica. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
stimulating. Yes, and a stimulating line of questions.
Nice. Wonderful. Thank you. And my hope today in having us all together to talk about these things and speaking about your critically important work of protecting Africa's wildlife and supporting environmental education through community outreach is to hopefully impart some wisdom and inspire passion within the hearts and minds of other wildlife advocates who are listening or watching on YouTube. And, you know, to remind people that we can all make a difference, every single one of us, each and every day, whether no matter how big or how small, you know, our collective voices together can carry the weight of, you know, to create change and create miracles and transformation. We all have that ability, you know, one at a time, you know, together. So that's my hope. You both inspired me. I'm humbled by you both. I hope that, you know, many others will be inspired by listening to our show today. And I want you to both know that you have a standing invitation anytime to please come on the Rising Lioness show again, and also with All About Animals Radio. They'd love to have you on also. So thank you. And
Thank you very much, Erika.
I hope I get to see you again. I hope I will be honored, and that would be
Yeah, you have to visit us.
Yes.
And then I'll take you out on patrol.
You're always welcome.
If that's a legitimate invitation, you might actually see me. I might actually take you up on that, because that's like on the top of my list. I really want to do that. So
It would be great. And then we do another podcast in the bush on patrol.
that is a dream. So yeah, I would love that. That'd be great. I'm gonna talk to Val about that. So maybe you can see me. That'd be super cool.
You can set it up for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, you guys. Until next time, namaste, and have a wonderful day, and be well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erika.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
This has been Erica Salvemini for the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio. A special thank you to Chris Corley for generously lending us his song, Zero Gravity, for the Rising Lioness Podcast theme. Please take a moment to write a review for our show, as it helps others to find us. Please also support our guests and their work, All About Animals Radio, and our social networks. Doing this further supports the animals and their advocates too, thereby making you an Animal Kingdom warrior also. You can find our links on the Rising Lioness podcast page. Until next time, in the words of Sharon Nunez, Animal Equality President, remember this: the small actions of one passionate individual can create a butterfly effect, leading to a movement that has the power to change the world. Please use your voice for the animals today.